So, I have a question for you, and it is, where does your stress come from? This will save you so much time, energy. It will prevent you from experiencing the bad consequences of stress on your mental, on your body, um, and it will just help you tackle this subject better, this problem better, especially if you're someone who wants to reduce stress in your life. And I ask this question because what I've realized is trying to, like, for example, people say you need to rest, right? And to not stress yourself a lot. But resting can be different. There are different types of rest. And that's why I also say there are different types of stress. I mean, it's the other way around. There are different types of stress, and so the rest that you need might look different to what somebody else needs. Um, and I'm going to explain it. So, when doctors say, for example, you need to reduce stress, um, it is a very vague statement because it doesn't really pinpoint what what that stress is. And nowadays, it's difficult to find doctors who actually sit and talk to you and know about your lifestyle and what you do and how you manage yourself, your time, and everything, to know where that stress may be coming from. And and that's why I'm here. That is why I'm here, to help you find out. This is what you this is something that you'll have to figure out on your own, obviously, but I'm just going to give you perspective coming from my experience so you can find out where your stress come from, and then tackle the root of the problem instead of trying to just rest, because um, sleeping may not be the the answer to your stress. Traveling and taking a vacation may not be the response to your stress. In fact, it may even worsen it. Let me write that down because I don't want to forget that aspect of it. So, um, okay. So, there are different types of stress. It could be mental, could be physical, okay, it could be relational, which ends up being mental and or physical. Like this, it's like it's intertwined, right? And um, one thing that I have to say is that when you want when you want to find out where your stress comes from, one question that is very important is to think about what causes discomfort, great discomfort. And sometimes that's not very clear, especially if you have a lot of things creating discomfort. You may not, it may be difficult to pinpoint exactly what's creating the discomfort, or what's the main element that is the problem. Life may be slapping you from all directions, so you don't really know what's going on. It's chaotic, but try to sit down and really think. What do you not like? What are you doing that is making your life worse, or let's say making your life less efficient. What is what, or who? You can also think about like the environment where you are. Is there something that also when I'm talking about what, it could be external, it could be internal too. Like, for example, you could say that you don't like living in a neighborhood that is very agitated, very like loud, etc., etc. There has it has like too much movement, and that puts a lot of stress on you. Um, but it could also be something internal, like not taking action, right? Like, or let's say different. Let me take a different example. Let's say um, overthinking. Overthinking can be a type of stress because you are constantly putting yourself under the same pressure of having to take a decision, but then you give yourself too many options, and then you break down each option and make it even more difficult. It's as if you're taking a test. Let's imagine you're at school, you're in school, and then you're taking an exam, okay? And you are taking that exam for days on. Imagine that. Like, it's very heavy on the mind to go through exams, like doing like the I don't know how you guys call it, but the periods of exams, right? At the um, at the end of a semester or something like that. Semester, you have a set of exams that you have to take. Usually, it's like not necessarily the same day. In my school, in high school, it used to be for me like for a week or two. So we had exams like every day, and even in one day, like focusing on something, like trying to resolve a problem, trying to answer something, like trying to remember. Like, it's a lot of calculations that your brain has to make in one, I mean, in a very short time, and it's very heavy on the mind. Imagine doing that non-stop for weeks, months on. Sometimes about the same thing. Could be about a past relationship. It could be about a past conversation that you're regurgitating and trying to find out, if I had said that, what if I had said this and that and that. It could be about like all kinds of things. So this is an internal process that is creating stress. Um, so uh, Sometimes it can be external or it can be internal. So think about, like, really, really sit and think about what puts you at discomfort, even if it comes from you. If it comes from you, try to think about it. So I'm gonna take some examples of me and what has caused me stress, and what that stress has provoked, have generated in my life, and how in turn these consequences reinforce the stress. um, so I'm gonna start with procrastinating. Okay, I used to procrastinate a lot. I still do that to a lesser extent. Now I don't procrastinate as often. I try to do things as quickly as possible. But um, yeah. Anyways, it does create a lot of stress because procrastinating is not only like, okay, you push your stuff away and you slack off, but the real problem of procrastination is that you never actually get it off your mind. You always have that idea in the back of your mind popping. So you don't leave space for other things. You cannot move on. You're stuck. And not only are you stuck, but it's also you're also becoming stressed. You're also avoiding like the other things because they're accumulating. So you become like overwhelmed and saturated at the amount of things that you have to do that you haven't taken care of, and that puts a lot of stress on you. And yeah, so my stress came from procrastinating. And another thing that really puts a lot of stress on me, which is the main one, is abandoning myself, or the way they call it, people pleasing. People pleasing is a big source, let's say, of stress. It will finish you in no time. My my abandoning myself caused a lot of trouble in my life. It put me in situations that I that were very dangerous. It put me in situations that um, in very compromised and difficult financial situations. And it also, took a toll on my body because I'm then like, I don't know if you guys know, but when you are a people pleaser, there are certain things that you don't say, or you don't resolve conflicts like you should, and so these things sometimes remain there for a long time. And um, not only do they never get resolved, like socially, like the conflict never really go away, it lingers. But there is also what they call I mean there's also this phenomenon where the emotions um, stay stored in the body. There are many psychologists that talk about that. The that emotions are stored in the body, like they say, the body keeps a score. So um, there are different parts of the body that I don't I'm not a professional. I don't know very well. I don't know these things very well, but I'm gonna talk from my experience and what it did to my body. So not speaking up, um, I believe that was the reason, even if I don't know for sure, but I'm like, it makes a lot of sense um, when I analyze my life and the way everything has played out, and in the coincidences from when I was not speaking up and when these symptoms would show up. So my not speaking up would cause me to have would cause me to have chronic a chronic condition, which is what's the term, chronic spontaneous urticaria. And I started having that at a very young age, and it was really bad. But 2 3 years ago, when I started paying attention to what was triggering, like what was making this condition worse, is often when I was in situations that I didn't want to be, situations I did not choose for myself, when I was forced to do something, or let's say I had something that I wanted to do, but someone prevented me to do it, or I was caught up in a situation where someone took advantage of me and I did not defend myself well, etc., etc. So in these situations, I would see that my body would get worse, like very, like it was the difference was noticeable. Um, it was noticeable, and another aspect of that of this whole thing of emotions being stored in the body is that I started showing signs. Like, no, there is one particular aspect that I want to touch, that I want to talk about, is the fact that the stress would be stored in the body. It's stored in the body. So, um, sorry, I wanted to say I had a lot of rage. I had a lot of anger because I couldn't speak up and I couldn't say certain things. And I'm like, I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to keep saying this. I mean, keeping these things in. I want to talk about it. But I was not feeling comfortable to do that, and so I kept them, and I ended up clenching. I was clenching my teeth at night because they say that anger is stored in the jaw and the neck. Um, and so all of that just ended up making me clenching my jaw, and I did not realize until I started seeing my teeth chipping off. It was kind of painful, not painful like that, but I was it wasn't comfortable. Anyways, point is that I also went to what's these people called? I forgot the name. The people who kind of like stretch your body, and they kind of crack the bones and stuff like. I forgot the name. So I went to one of 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 these people, and he was like, your your neck is so stiff, like so tense. Your shoulders are so tense. Everything is just so tense, you know. And it was around that same period of time. So, um, yeah. Anyways, I don't want to make the video too long. But I want to say this, like sometimes your stress that you're experiencing comes from something that is not clear, um, like work. Okay, and sometimes even at work, there are certain things that may be stressing you, specific things, like for example, not speaking up to your boss when they're taking advantage of you, or maybe they're making you stay overtime when you had not signed up for that. Maybe your stress is coming from the fact that you don't like where you work. That's a different kind of stress. The stress, like maybe your work environment is actually good and they're treating you right, you have enough benefits, that you have bonuses, and you have, all, you have good colleagues. It still wouldn't matter, because it still don't matter because you are at a job, you are doing a job that you don't want to do. Maybe your stress comes from the fact that um, um, financially speaking, you are taking on responsibilities that you don't really want to take or that are not yours to take. Maybe your stress comes from the fact that you're helping too many people, or you're helping one person too much. You're overextending yourself. Maybe your stress comes from the fact that you don't like your bed, like the way your bed is, or your room is set up. It's making you uneasy. You have that thought on the back of your mind, but you don't pay much mind to it. Like, you don't pay attention to that. You would think, it's just a room, or maybe maybe you don't like the fact that there's not enough light in your room, and so um it kind of like, I don't know, there's so many things that could be sources of stress. So I'm really begging of you to sit down, or even if you don't sit and think about it, but keep asking yourself that, or pay attention, be observant of what irritates you. You don't have to talk about it yet. You don't have to tell anybody anything if you don't feel comfortable yet. But try to notice what creates stress. You can be angry at someone. You can be mad at someone. You can be upset at someone. You can um, maybe you don't like the smell of your partner because they're not taking care of their hygiene properly, or maybe the perfume that they bought is actually very irritating for you for some reason. There might be something like I'm trying to find examples so you understand that it can come from literally anything. Like, one thing is that also brings a lot of stress is overthinking. Just stop. Like me myself, I try not to do it. I try not to overthink as much, but stop. Releasing also helps a lot because sometimes we cling on to things that we don't really need. So these things, every time we see them, we're like, they're there, they're occupying space, they're taking money, they're taking energy. You still don't want to let go, and these things will stress you without you even realizing. It's like in the back of your mind, but it's actually very present, and it does eat you up in a way. You know what I mean? It tires you. So yeah, that's what I wish for all of you in 2026 and for the rest of your lives, to know where your stress comes from. This is the only way to reduce stress, is to know where it comes from so you can resolve that particular issue. Also, bonus before I end this video, I forgot. Oh, no, I got it. Control. Having too much control, or trying to have too much control over certain things, will stress you so much. I'm talking from experience. I tend to be a perfectionist. I'm no longer that. I hope I'm no longer that. Like, I'm trying not to be, and I'm kind of like releasing that, and I just try to do things and be done with them. They're not perfect, whatever. We'll do better next time. So having to control everything will take your joy away. Don't try to control everything. Do not. Come on. Do not. Let them do. You don't have to control your child so much, or your husband, or what he wears. Like, let that person be a little bit. You know, like if you have a child and they're making a mess, maybe if you don't want to be cleaning up after them all the time, teach them how to clean after themselves. How about that? If they're big enough, they can play and like make a mess. They can clean up after their mess. You know? That's a good way to kind of say it's gonna take some time to teach them, but once they understand, I'm responsible for the mess that I make, they will be mindful of of like the way they handle certain things. If it's your older son that's coming into the house too late every time, every night, and you've had enough, if they're old enough to stay outside, they're old enough to stay outside. Yeah. If they're old enough to be defiant, they're old enough to face the consequences. Okay? Like, don't let this thing stress you. All right? Let's then do not let this thing stress you. Okay? Release control. Live your life. Live your life. Like, this is something I like, even for me, for myself. Sorry, guys. I know it's long, but I just want to keep on talking. Do share your experience, okay? But like, when I look at everything that I've tried to control, I'm like, I don't know. Even explaining things, like explaining too much, man, sometimes I regret having to, like, trying to negotiate too much. Just do you and keep it moving. Bye. If you have questions, if you have, don't hesitate to share your experience with me. Um, do follow. I mean, not follow, subscribe. Subscribe. Oh, just subscribe. It's good stuff here. It's good stuff. Like, I talk about, I make commentaries about so many subjects that are juicy, juicy. I mean, juicy for me. It's kind of like mostly intellectual. Um, what am I even saying? Like, it has to. It has. I mean, I do a lot of things on many subjects, so you can get ideas on many different things. So do follow, do subscribe. Okay. Also, if you like the commentaries I make, um, actually, I think I've never really introduced myself. I'm Ben. I'm Benedict. Okay, a pleasure. Bye. I start doing that because I what? Bye.